High Architect Valtherin stood before the probability stream, his crystalline form refracting the countless streams of data that flowed through the Grand Archive. For 10,000 years, the Zentaran Collective had ruled the galaxy through perfect prediction, their quantum matrices calculating the movement of every particle, the outcome of every decision, the destiny of every species. The archive rose around him like a cathedral of living crystal, its spires stretching kilometers into the purple sky of the Zentaran homeworld. Each facet held millennia of calculations, each prism a window into the future of 1,000 worlds. The beauty of their achievement had long since ceased to move him. Perfect order, after all, was simply the natural state of things. High Architect, a junior analyst, materialized beside him, her crystalline form vibrating with unusual urgency. "We've detected an anomaly in Sector 793. Valtherin's upper facets shifted in annoyance. Anomalies do not exist within the probability stream. Check your calculations again. Sir, I verified the reading 16 times. The analyst's voice carried a harmonic of fear, an emotion so rare among their kind that Valtherin's attention crystallized upon it. There's a hairline fracture in the primary prediction matrix. It's growing. Valtherin glided to the sector in question, his consciousness merging with the stream. There, amidst the perfect flow of quantum data, he saw it, a tiny line of darkness, a crack in the very fabric of their predictions. As he watched, it spread like ice fracturing under too much pressure. "Impossible," he whispered, but the evidence defied his denial. The crack was real, and it was spreading. "Show me the origin point." The analyst manipulated the stream, tracing the fracture back through space and time. The image resolved into a star system on the edge of their territory. Unremarkable save for one detail. It had never appeared in their predictions before. "Run a full spectrum analysis," Valtherin ordered, his voice sharp as breaking crystal. "I want every scrap of data from that region." The archive's systems responded, pouring energy into the task. Around them, the crystal walls hummed with power as quantum computers that had predicted the rise and fall of empires focused on this single anomaly. The results made no sense. Where there should have been clear probability lines, there was only chaos. Where perfect predictions should have mapped the future, there was a storm of quantum uncertainty. It was as if someone had taken a hammer to the laws of physics themselves. "High Architect," another voice called out, this one belonging to the Master of Fleet Operations. "We're receiving reports from the outer sectors. 3 patrol ships have gone silent." Valtherin's form stiffened. "Silent? Our ships do not go silent. They cannot go silent. The probability stream shows nothing," the fleet master finished. "Whatever is happening out there, it's operating outside our models." For the first time in his 5,000-year life, Valtherin felt something akin to fear. The Zentaran Collective had built their empire on the foundation of perfect prediction. They had tamed the galaxy not through brute force, but through the absolute certainty that they could see and shape the future. Now, in the space of a few hours, that certainty was cracking. "Summon the council," he commanded, his voice resonating through the archive. "And launch the reserve fleet. Whatever this anomaly is, we will isolate it, study it, and add its parameters to our models." But as he gave the orders, Valtherin noticed something that chilled him to his core. The crack in the probability stream had grown while they watched, and its pattern. It almost looked like a human smile. The perfect order of the galaxy was about to meet something it had never encountered before. Chaos, wrapped in steel, bearing the flag of Earth. Station Commander Zelrath had never seen the primary detection array malfunction in all his 3,000 years of service. The crystalline sensors were perfect, their quantum-entangled networks incapable of error. Yet here he stood, watching the impossible play out on his monitoring screens. "Report," he demanded, his crystalline form shifting through shades of deep purple with agitation. What exactly am I looking at? Senior sensor operator Nix Val adjusted the array's focus, her own form flickering with uncertainty. Sir, the object first appeared at coordinates 227 Mark 334, moving at approximately 1/8 light speed. Then it simply ceased to exist. Objects don't cease to exist. Operator. No, sir. But 3 seconds later, it reappeared at 229 Mark 338, having somehow traversed 2 light-years of space. Her voice carried harmonics of confusion. The energy signature is unlike anything in our libraries, and the movement pattern. She paused, her crystal structure vibrating with distress. It defies our physical laws. Zelarath moved closer to the display, his consciousness merging with the sensor feeds. The unknown vessel appeared again, this time closer to their position. Its hull was dark, absorbing rather than reflecting light, its shape reminiscent of ancient ocean predators from a dozen worlds. But it was the drive signature that drew his attention, a swirling maelstrom of quantum states that shouldn't have been possible. Launch probe units, he ordered. Full spectrum analysis. The station's external arrays deployed, crystal probes splitting off like seeds from a pod. They approached the coordinates where the ship had last been seen. Their sensors extended, and found nothing. Sir, another operator called out. The vessel has reappeared, inside our inner defense perimeter. Zelarath's form crystallized in shock. The inner perimeter was protected by fields that should have made such an approach impossible. Yet there it was, the dark ship hanging in space, less than 10,000 kilometers from their position. For the first time, they got a clear look at its hull. Strange markings were visible along its side, characters that the station's linguistics database identified as human script, UES Dauntless. Human. Zelarath's voice carried tones of disbelief. That's impossible. The probability stream showed their species wouldn't achieve deep space travel for another century at least. Sir, we're detecting energy buildup within the vessel, Nixfall reported. Sir, these readings make no sense. The ship appears to be existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The dark ship flickered, like heat waves over desert sand. Around it, space itself seemed to bend and twist, reality warping, in ways that made the station's sensors scream in protest. Send warning to Central Command, Zelarath ordered. Priority 1. Unknown human vessel has breached. He never finished the sentence. The dark ship vanished again, but this time the effect rippled outward. Every sensor on the station's port side went dark, their perfect crystalline matrices shattered by whatever wake the ship had left behind. Multiple systems failing. Nix Val's voice rose in alarm. The quantum network is destabilizing. Prediction engines are offline. Sir, we're flying blind. For a species that had relied on perfect information for 10,000 years, blindness was more than a tactical disadvantage. It was a psychological shock that left them reeling. Send everything we have, Zelarath commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. Every scrap of data, every sensor reading, every failed prediction. The collective must know what we're facing. As the emergency transmission burst from the station's arrays, Zelarath watched the last image they'd captured of the human ship. Its dark hull seemed to drink in the starlight, but there was something more, something about its very presence that spoke of change coming to the galaxy. The age of perfect prediction was ending. The time of uncertainty had begun. Captain James Morrison stood at the viewport of the UES Dauntless, watching the stars blur and twist as the chaos drive warped reality around them. 20 years as a fighter pilot had taught him to trust his gut, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. A ship that sailed through the quantum foam of space itself. Status report, he called out, his voice carrying the same calm authority that had earned him the call sign Thunder during the Mars conflicts. Never loud, but always commanding. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez, his navigation officer, responded without looking up from her console. Chaos drive is holding steady at 70% stir. Reality cohesion is fluctuating between 0.8 and 0.9, within acceptable parameters. And our friends? Morrison asked, knowing the Zentaran station they'd just passed would be having a collective meltdown right about now. Commander David Chen, tactical officer and former MIT quantum physics professor, grinned as he studied his readings. Their sensors are still trying to make sense of us, Captain. Every time they think they've got a lock, the drive's probability field shifts, and we become a different statistical possibility. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. The chaos drive was humanity's greatest achievement, and their most closely guarded secret. While other species had mastered conventional physics, humans had learned to weaponize uncertainty itself. Engineering reports all systems nominal. Chief Engineer Maya Jackson's voice crackled over the comm. The quantum fluctuation matrix is dancing like a dream. Those crystal boys won't know what hit M. The bridge crew of the Dauntless represented Earth's finest, a mix of military veterans and brilliant academics, each chosen for their ability to think outside not just the box, but outside reality itself. They were the first, the pioneers of a new age of space travel. Captain, Rodriguez called out, her voice tightening. Multiple contacts appearing at the edge of our probability field. Looks like the Zentarans are finally mounting a response. Morrison moved to the central command station, his steps sure despite the quantum distortions rippling through the ship. Show me. The holographic display sprang to life, showing a dozen crystalline vessels arranging themselves in what he assumed was their standard combat formation. Beautiful ships, really like flying cathedrals made of light and mathematics. They're trying to calculate our next move, Chen reported, his fingers dancing over his console. Their predictive systems are going into overdrive. Want to really mess with them? Sir. Morrison nodded. Let's show them why you don't bring a calculator to a bar fight. Execute random walk protocol. The crew responded with well-practiced precision. The Chaos Drive's power level jumped to 85%, and the Dauntless began to move in ways that should have been impossible, because, according to conventional physics, they were. Sir, Rodriguez called out, excitement creeping into her professional tone. We're getting feedback from their systems, their prediction engines. They're starting to crash. Morrison watched as the perfect formation of Zentaran ships began to waver. He could almost picture their confusion as every prediction they made about the Dauntless's movement failed simultaneously. Send the message, he ordered. Let's see if they're ready to talk. As Chen prepared the communication burst, Morrison reflected on the irony of their mission. Humanity, the youngest spacefaring race, had created something the ancient Zentarans had never imagined. A ship that didn't just navigate through space, but through possibility itself. The Chaos Drive hummed beneath his feet, a sound like thunder rolling through quantum dimensions. Outside, the stars continued their strange dance, as reality itself bent around the human ship that defied prediction. The game was about to change, and humanity had just made their opening move. The Zentaran battle fleet moved like a perfect crystal ballet, 12 ships flowing through space in formations refined by 10 millennia of combat mathematics. Their crystalline hulls caught the light of distant stars, creating a dazzling display of refracted energy that had struck fear into countless enemy forces. But Captain Morrison saw something different. Predictability. Time to show them why Earth named its first warship after the old sailing vessels, he said, his voice carrying the same calm it had during the Mars campaigns. Chief Jackson, bring the Chaos Drive to combat configuration. The Dauntless's hull resonated with a deep hum as the quantum matrices shifted. Reality began to blur around them. the ship existing in multiple states simultaneously. "Sir," Commander Chen called out from tactical. "They're attempting to lock onto our position with some kind of probability beam." Morrison allowed himself a slight smile. "Let's give them a lesson in Earth naval history. Execute Pattern Thunder 7. The Dauntless moved like a storm front, its trajectory following the same chaotic patterns as lightning striking the ocean. Where the Zentaran ships flew in perfect arcs, the human vessel danced through impossible angles, each movement defying the laws of physics the aliens had built their empire upon. "First salvo," Morrison ordered. "Show them what happens when quantum uncertainty meets crystal." The Dauntless's main guns fired, not simple energy weapons, but streams of concentrated chaos. Each shot existed in a superposition of states until impact, making them impossible to track or deflect. The lead Zentaran ship's perfect crystalline shields shattered like glass meeting a sledgehammer. Direct hit. Chen's voice carried the excitement of a scientist seeing a theory proved. Their defensive algorithms are going haywire. They can't predict where to reinforce their shields. The Zentaran fleet's formation began to break apart as they tried to adapt. Their ships fired back with beams of pure energy, but the Dauntless was never quite where their targeting systems said it should be. "Rodriguez," Morrison called. "Execute Thunderclap maneuver." Lieutenant Rodriguez's fingers flew over her console. "Aye, sir." Spinning up multiple quantum states, the Dauntless seemed to split into 5 vessels, each one as real as the others until observed. The Zentaran fleet's sensors overloaded trying to track them all, their perfect combat mathematics unable to handle the quantum uncertainty principle weaponized on a massive scale. "They're transmitting something," Communications Officer Parker announced. "It's, sir, I think they're asking how this is possible." Morrison watched as 2 more Zentaran ships had their systems crashed by uncertainty cascades. "Send them a copy of Schrödinger's cap-thought experiment. Let them chew on that for a while." The battle continued to unfold like a chess match, where one side could move their pieces through time and probability. The Zentaran ships, for all their advanced technology, were fighting with an abacus against a quantum computer. "Sir," Chen's voice cut through the controlled chaos of the bridge. 3 of their ships are attempting some kind of synchronized attack pattern." "Perfect," Morrison said. "Time for the lightning strike. All hands, brace for Thunder Run." The Dauntless dove straight into the heart of the Zentaran formation, its chaos drive operating at maximum power. Reality itself seemed to bend and crack around the ship as it moved in ways that made local space-time scream in protest. For the first time in 10,000 years, the perfect crystal ships of the Zentaran collective met something they couldn't predict, couldn't control, and couldn't defeat. The battle became a legend that would echo through the galaxy. The day a single human ship proved that sometimes the most perfect strategy is no strategy at all. As the last Zentaran ship retreated, its crystal hull cracked and its prediction engines in ruins, Morrison turned to his crew. "Send word to Earth. Tell them the dance has begun." The Grand Archive of the Zentaran Collective had never known chaos until today. High Architect Val Theron watched in horror as the probability streams turned from orderly flows into turbulent rapids of quantum data. The news of the battle had spread faster than light itself, carried by the very networks that had once ensured their perfect control of the galaxy. 3 more prediction nodes have failed, a senior analyst reported, her crystalline form dulled with stress. "The uncertainty, it's spreading like a virus through our systems." Val Theron moved through the once perfect archive, now filled with crystalline displays showing cascading errors and failed predictions. "Show me the pattern of the spread." The main display activated, revealing a map of Zentaran space. Red lines traced the path of system failures, all emanating from the point where the human ship had first appeared. But something was wrong. The pattern wasn't random. "Magnify Sector 7, he commanded. The display zoomed in, and Valtheron's form vibrated with shock. The failure pattern matched exactly the movement signature of the human vessel. They weren't just leaving a wake of chaos. They were drawing it. "High Architect," another voice called out, "we're receiving reports from the outer colonies. 3 more human ships have been detected, each one moving like the first." The news hit the archive like a physical blow. Around them, crystal panels began to crack as the prediction engines struggled to process multiple sources of uncertainty. Each human ship was a stone cast into their perfect pond of probability, and the ripples were becoming a tsunami. The Rodin system reports total prediction failure. The senior analyst's voice had lost its musical quality, becoming sharp with fear. Their defense grid, it's operating on direct visual input only. They've been blinded. For a species that had built their civilization on perfect foreknowledge, blindness was worse than death. Valtheron watched as more systems began to fall, their perfect crystal networks shattering under the weight of uncertainty. "Sir," a military commander materialized in the archive, his form flickering with urgency. "The human ships. They're teaching others. The Proxima Colony's defense force has begun using randomized flight patterns. Our predictive targeting can't lock onto them." Valtheron's worst fears were being realized. The humans weren't just breaking their systems, they were showing others how to break free. The perfect order they'd maintained for 10,000 years was unraveling not through force, but through example. "The primary quantum core is showing signs of stress," a technical specialist announced. "The conflicting data. It's too much. We have to shut down the network or risk losing everything." But Valtheron knew it was already too late. He could see it in the data streams, in the growing cracks across the archive's walls, in the fear harmonics vibrating through his people's communications. The humans had introduced something worse than chaos into their perfect system. They'd introduced choice. "Sir," the senior analyst's voice cut through his thoughts, "we're detecting a new signal. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in every language in the galaxy." The message appeared on the main display, simple yet earth-shatteringly complex. "To all species under Zentaran control, the future is not written. It is chosen. Join us." Valtheron watched as the message spread, carried by the very networks they used to maintain control. With each passing moment, more systems began to show signs of what the humans called free will, unpredictable actions, unplanned decisions, choices made not by calculation, but by desire. The perfect crystal empire was beginning to crack, and through those cracks, chaos, beautiful, terrible, human chaos, was pouring in like starlight through a broken window. Deep within the Zentaran science citadel, master theorist Kilvrin stared at the human brain scans with a mixture of horror and fascination. The holographic displays showed neural patterns unlike anything their science had ever encountered. A storm of quantum events that defied their most advanced modeling systems. "Impossible," the lead researcher, Dr. Ixera, whispered. Her crystalline form shifted through shades of deep blue as she processed the data. "They're neural patterns. They're not just random. They're actively generating quantum uncertainty." Kilvrin moved closer to the display, where Captain Morrison's brain scan pulsed with activities that shouldn't have existed. Every decision they make creates a cascade of quantum events. It's as if their entire species evolved to defy prediction. The laboratory around them was filled with the most advanced analysis equipment in the galaxy, yet none of it could make sense of human consciousness. Where Zentaran minds moved in logical, predictable patterns, human thoughts danced through probability space like lightning through storm clouds. "Look at this," Dr. Ixera highlighted a section of the scan. "When they make decisions, they don't just choose between options. They actually generate new quantum states. Their intuition, their gut feelings, as they call them, are literally probability manipulations at the quantum level. A junior researcher burst into the lab, his form flickering with excitement. "Masters, we've analyzed the chaos drive technology. It's not technology at all. Not really. They'd found a way to amplify their natural quantum state generation. The ships are just extensions of human consciousness." Kilvren's form paled to nearly transparent as the implications hit him. "They're not breaking our predictions. They're breaking reality itself. Every human decision creates a new branch in quantum space. And their ships surf those branches like waves." The displays around them showed more data from the Dauntless's encounters. Each maneuver, each tactical decision made by Morrison and his crew created ripples through probability space that their systems couldn't process. The humans weren't just operating outside their models. They were actively rewriting the rules of what was possible. "There's more." Dr. Ixera's voice carried harmonics of deep concern. "The effect is spreading. Other species exposed to human decision-making patterns are beginning to show similar quantum variations. They're learning to think unpredictably." The laboratory's crystal walls reflected their shifting forms as the Zentaran scientists grappled with a terrible reality. Their perfect understanding of the universe had been based on an incomplete model. They had built an empire on predicting the future, never realizing that consciousness itself could be a force that shaped reality. "The humans call it free will," a cultural analyst added from the corner. "Their literature is full of references to it. They've known about this power all along, not through science, but through pure intuition." Kilvren moved to the central display, where Morrison's latest battle maneuvers play out. "Look at how they fight. Every decision is made in the moment, drawing from experience, but not bound by it. Their strategic databases don't list present responses. They list historical examples, art, even games. They train their officers to think, not to calculate. And their chaos drive." Dr. Ixera highlighted the ship's energy signature. "It's a quantum amplifier, taking that natural human uncertainty and magnifying it until it affects the material world. They're not just thinking outside our models. They're acting outside them." The implications were staggering. The Zentaran collective had spent 10,000 years perfect their prediction engines, only to discover that the very nature of consciousness could render those predictions meaningless. Human unpredictability wasn't a flaw in their models. It was a fundamental force of the universe they had never known existed. The Dauntless led a fleet that defied mathematics itself. Behind Morrison's flagship, 50 ships of various species flew in formations that changed like music, unpredictable yet harmonious, chaos given purpose and direction. "Status report on the Andromeda Alliance forces," Morrison called out, watching as the combined fleet approached the Zentaran defense line around the Nexus colony. Commander Chen's voice carried a note of pride. "The Sarukai have mastered the randomized attack patterns, sir. Their crystalline ships are actually starting to generate their own uncertainty fields. The Valeni fleet has adapted our ancient Earth naval tactics to their energy vessels. They are using something like 18th century broadside maneuvers in three-dimensional space." Lieutenant Rodriguez added from navigation, "The quantum wake from all our ships combined is creating what the science team is calling a freedom CASTAD, chaos amplification synergy causing adaptive dimensional evolution." On the main display, the Zentaran defense line gleamed like a wall of perfect crystal stretched across the stars. But where once that sight had inspired fear, now it only showed their weakness, the fatal flaw of absolute predictability. "Open fleet-wide communications," Morrison ordered. "Time to share some more Earth history with our allies." The channel opened, and Morrison's voice carried to every ship in the combined fleet. "To all ships, today we execute Operation Thermopylae. Like the ancient Spartans of Earth, we face a numerically superior force. And like them, we have one advantage they don't expect: the power of tactical innovation. The fleet moved forward, each species adding their own unique interpretation to the battle plans. The Sarukai ships spun in spirals that created quantum interference patterns. The Volani fleet broke into smaller groups, using old Earth Wolfpack tactics updated for four-dimensional combat. Multiple Zentaran prediction arrays going dark, Chen reported. Their system can't handle the combined uncertainty of all our forces. They're having to rely on direct observation only, something they haven't done in thousands of years. The battle unfolded like a dance of light and shadow, where the Zentaran ships moved in perfect, predictable patterns. The Alliance fleet flowed like water, like wind, like thought itself. Each species brought their own cultural heritage to the fight, creating a combat style that was neither pure chaos nor pure order, but something new. "Sir," Rodriguez called out, "we're detecting quantum fluctuations from within the Zentaran line. Some of their ships, they're trying to copy our movement patterns." Morrison smiled. This was what they'd hoped for, not just victory, but transformation. "Send the signal to all ships. Execute Protocol Prometheus." The Dauntless's chaos drive spun up to full power, its quantum field reaching out to touch the minds of every crew in the fleet. Through their neural interfaces, each species shared not just tactical data, but experiences, memories, dreams. A Sarukai captain remembered ancient hunting dances. A Volani commander shared stories of ocean storms on their homeworld. And in that moment of shared consciousness, something beautiful happened. The combined fleet moved not as individual ships, but as a single expression of free will. Their movements became a symphony of unpredictability, each ship adding its own notes to a song that defied the very laws of probability. The Zentaran line began to break, not under the force of superior firepower, but under the weight of a new kind of warfare, one based not on prediction and control, but on creativity and choice. Message from the Zentaran flagship, Communications Officer Parker announced. They're asking how to generate their own uncertainty fields. They want to learn, sir. Morrison looked out at the battlefield, where crystal ships were learning to dance with chaos, and felt the universe shifting around them. The revolution wasn't just breaking the Zentaran Empire, it was transforming it, one conscious choice at a time. The Zentaran homeworld hung in space, like a perfect crystal sphere, its cities gleaming with mathematical precision that had defined their civilization for 10,000 years. Before it, the combined fleet of the Alliance held position, not in any regular formation, but in a constantly shifting pattern that mimicked the very quantum uncertainty they had embraced. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, looking at the world that had once ruled the galaxy through pure prediction. Status of the Zentaran High Command. "They're waiting for us, sir," Parker reported from communications. "Their quantum networks are different. They're not trying to predict us anymore. They're attempting to understand us." The main screen showed something unprecedented. Zentaran ships moving in patterns that weren't perfectly calculated. Their crystal hulls had been modified, now refracting light in ways that created uncertainty rather than perfect order. "They're learning," Commander Chen observed, his scientific curiosity evident in his voice. "Their ships are generating their own chaos fields now. Crude, but effective." Morrison nodded, watching as the last pieces of a 10,000-year empire transformed before his eyes. "Open a channel to High Architect Valtheran." The communication crystal on the bridge activated, and Valtheran's form appeared, changed from their first encounter. Where once his crystalline structure had been rigid and regular, now it flowed with subtle variations, each facet catching light in unpredictable ways. "Captain Morrison," Valtheran's voice carried new harmonics, notes of uncertainty that would have been unthinkable months ago. "We have been experimenting with your methods. Our scientists have made remarkable discoveries about the nature of consciousness itself." "And what have you learned, High Architect?" That perfect prediction is not just impossible, it is undesirable. The very act of trying to control the future limits its potential. We have been like a crystal prison, containing the galaxy in our mathematical models. You have shown us how to break free. Around them, space itself seemed to hold its breath. The combined fleet of a dozen species watched as history turned on this moment. We offer not surrender, Valtherin continued, but partnership. Our knowledge of the universe's structure, combined with your understanding of its chaos. Together, we could create something new. Morrison smiled, recognizing the echo of humanity's own journey from rigid control to embraced uncertainty. Send the signal, he ordered his crew. The Dauntless's chaos drive spun up one last time, but not for battle. Instead, it broadcast a pattern of quantum fluctuations that the Zentaran crystals caught and amplified, creating a symphony of possibility that spread across their world. The future isn't something to be predicted, Morrison said, his words carrying to every ship, every world watching this moment. It's something to be chosen, created, and lived. Each decision, each moment of uncertainty, is a gift that makes the universe richer. The crystal cities below began to change, their perfect geometries flowing into new forms that merged order and chaos. The prediction engines that had once controlled the galaxy were being reborn as possibility explorers, tools not for domination, but for discovery. The age of perfect prediction is over, Valtherin announced, his voice reaching across the stars. The time of infinite possibility has begun. As the sun rose over the Zentaran homeworld, its light caught the combined fleet, crystal ships dancing with metal ones, each species adding their own note to a new symphony of space and time. The galaxy was awakening to a future where order and chaos worked not as enemies, but as partners in the greatest adventure of all, the unknown. Morrison looked out at the changed galaxy and remembered an old Earth saying, "The best predictions are the ones we choose to make come true."